This happened on a weekend like any other. I had just moved in with my dad a few months prior, to which we had moved to Florida. My parents were looking for a fresh start, so they took ownership of a gas station. It started out as a Chevron, but because of a clause in our contract was quickly changed to an ExxonMobil. We lived in a small town in Florida called Plant City. I was good with numbers, and for whatever reason, being behind the counter gave me enough confidence that I was great with customers. I trained for 5 months at 17, but once I was 18, I was officially hired and could run the place by myself, which is what always happened. It was never busy enough to require multiple people, so my 5'2", 95-pound self was always left alone. I got hit on a ridiculous amount, but being a passive girl who was finally out of her shell, I didn't mind all of the attention. By my stepmom's decision, I was the closer, which a lot of my regulars thought was a bad idea. But being a night owl, I didn't mind. The absolute worst part about closing was the fact that after I shut down the till and turned off the lights, I had to go to each of the gas pumps and dump the trash. It always left me feeling vulnerable, though this story isn't about that. It was probably about 9 p.m. on a Friday when this man came in. I knew instantly he was intoxicated, which wasn't entirely new for the area, but he did what often men did. They'd take a quick glance at me and turn away, to only moments later whip their head around like they'd just realized I was a young lone female at the cash register. He smiled at me like a wolf. He had been automatically heading to the beer coolers, but once he caught sight of me, he stumbled over. He was mid-40s, overweight, and heavily whiskered, like he hadn't shaved in quite a time. I smiled politely, but his eyes were boring holes into me. Can I help you, sir?" I cheerfully asked. His grin was plastered on his face as he said, "Oh man, is that a real offer? I can think of 1,000 ways you can help me." I laughed nervously, looking down in embarrassment. How old are you?" he demands, in a serious tone that surprises me. I got that question often, so I tried not to think too much of it and quickly replied, "I just turned 18, sir." He smiles again and slurs, "Oh wow, you're even legal. This must be my lucky day. You're gorgeous. Can I take you home?" I kind of choke on a reply and decide to play stupid. Legal, sir? Legal for what? I'm legally old enough to sell you lottery tickets and alcohol, but that's about all." He laughs then. I could get alcohol anywhere, but I decided to come here. It's fate. I was meant to see you. And I don't bother to respond, just continue to look down uncomfortably. A girl like you should never look down. I'm gonna go grab beer, and then you should leave with me. He insists. I laugh, trying to play it off. "Oh no, sir, I still have another 2 hours until my shift is over." His face goes blank and stares at me. He intentionally turns his head left and right, obviously emphasizing that he was the only one in there, and says, "Well, I'm your only customer here now. Shouldn't you take care of me?" I scrunch my eyebrows together and ask, "How do you mean, sir?" And he laughs like a maniac. "Oh, sugar, I'm sure you know how to take care of me." I frown, my hand reaching the panic button under the counter. The button was mainly intended if fuel was spraying out from one of the pumps, to which it would alert the fire department and police, but I'm hesitant to press it. Despite all of my situations, I had never called the police, and I'm afraid if I do, they'll look at me like a silly, overactive girl, so I wait. He leans over the counter and smiles at me again. Sir, really, you need to buy something and leave," I say unsteadily. He laughs again. "Oh yeah, like you're so busy." And before I get the chance, another man enters the gas station. He's one of my regulars, one of those that spends a sad amount of lottery tickets one after the other. He's an attractive African-American with salt and pepper stubble on his face. He immediately sees the freaked out look on my face and glances at the drunk man. "Are you okay, Victoria?" he mouths, and I shake my head quickly. He frowns and nods, ordering one of our Mega Millions. He then mouths, "Do you want me to call the police?" To which I do one quick nod, and he nods. He doesn't have to explain it to me. I can tell by his eye contact that he's going to call the police as soon as he steps out of the gas station. The drunken man walks in front of me after he walks out. "Damn, baby, I don't know how you deal with guys like that," he said, using an offensive racial slur. And I can't help but gasp. "Don't talk like that. He's a wonderful man. His skin color doesn't matter, thanks." To which the drunk man laughs and leans over the counter, trying to kiss me. I slam backwards and I smash in the back counter. Before I can do or say anything, he's sprawled himself across the counter and slides over it, smashing my display of phone chargers to the ground below me. He's sitting on the counter, grabbing onto my Exxon shirt as he giggles. "Whoops. and then tries to force my head forward as he tries to kiss me. I full-on scream at this point, losing all of my cool as he lands on my side of the counter, full-on grabbing me. He slips his hand under my shirt, and I full-on headbutt him. It hurts horribly, but he stumbles backwards, swearing, "Fuck you, bitch. Who the fuck do you think you are? You're just an ugly fucking bitch." My regular rushes in with another one of my regulars and tries to get a hold of the man, who's staring at me and pulls out a pocket knife. The other of my regular's son crashes in and full-on tackles the man. The three of them are struggling as he continues swearing and threatening to gut me like a fish. He doesn't stop struggling until the police arrive. One of my favorite regulars, Officer I, storms in, along with 3 other cops as they smash the man against the counter and handcuff him. I'm sobbing and he calls my parents. My stepmother is pissed, but my dad doesn't say anything, avoiding eye contact with me. They handcuff the man and force him into the back of the cop car, banning him from entering the gas station ever again. Officer gives me his personal cell phone number, so I can call him as soon as something goes wrong. They take the man away, and my regulars that saved me ensure that I'm safe. They leave, insisting me that it was the least they can do. My stepmom actually asks me why I didn't bother to call the police earlier, like it's my own fault somehow. My dad remains silent, and they both leave me to close the store with the last hour of my shift remaining. I go home crying and silently weep myself to sleep. I never saw the man again. However, weeks later, when I reported a disturbance behind the building, Officer I informed me that they found the man hiding behind the trash can where I dumped the garbage every night. So, to the crazy drunk guy waiting for me, let's never meet again. Last night, my boyfriend and I were driving home from Universal Studios in Orlando. We were rerouted away home we've never gone before, and we're traveling in basically the middle of nowhere. My boyfriend's speedometer is broken on his car, and he has to press the button to reset the miles after he gets gas. This will be very important soon. We were driving on a deserted road in the middle of absolute nowhere, with not one car in sight. My boyfriend realized we hit the 130-mile mark on his odometer. We needed gas, but there was literally not one gas station in sight. I put search gas stations nearby, and we found one. It turned out to be closed. In a hurry, we found another gas station 5 minutes up the road. This is where the story gets weird. My boyfriend thought he closed his gas cap, and we're once again driving along this deserted road. We heard a loud bang, and he realized he forgot to put the gas cap back on. So we're driving around this dark road looking for the gas cap. He finally pulls over and realizes somehow the gas cap is still attached to the car. We get back on track to the other gas station. Out of nowhere, I had a horrible thought about something going wrong at that gas station. I pushed it aside because I knew we needed gas, and AAA is not an option where we were at the moment. We get to this gas station, and the lights are kind of on. This road literally leads to a dead end with a gas station on it. The only way to leave this area was to turn left or go straight out of the gas station. My boyfriend got out of the car to see if we could get gas, and the feeling intensified. I have literally never felt like that in my life. My stomach dropped into my butt. I have been in very disturbing situations, such as almost being kidnapped twice, being followed home, watching someone be taken away in a body bag after being hit by a car, and even a paranormal situation. I can talk about these sometime in the future, but I have never felt like this before. I saw a white car pulling up to the road to make a left. Keep in mind there is literally no one on this road. He pulls up and notices my boyfriend and backs up with his windows down. I found this very strange because my boyfriend has a very nice sports car, and my mind immediately went into panic mode. I started screaming his name, and the man realized that someone else was in the car, me, and turned left and sped off. Sadly, I didn't get his license plate because of how dark it was. This situation frightened me more than you can even imagine. It may not seem too scary, but it was easily one of the most terrifying things to watch because I didn't know if I was going to witness my boyfriend being robbed at gunpoint or something like that. The feeling and thought I had just 10 minutes earlier is what also made the situation even worse. We found a gas station with actual human life around, and we made it home safe and sound. Once I got home, my dad told me that the road we were driving on was famous for the many bodies being found on it. I hope no one ever gets put into this situation. And to the man who was planning to do something to my boyfriend, let's...
For a bit of context, I work at a gas station in the backwoods of Tennessee, and that's where this happened. Last night, when I clocked in at 8, the store was completely dead. I figured it was going to be a pretty easy night because the road this station is on is not the main road. Actually, it used to be, up until about a decade ago when a new freeway was built. This led basically every business that was here to pack up and leave their old building abandoned. Thanks to this, there are a lot of abandoned buildings on this stretch of road, which local druggies tend to claim as their own. Anyways, at around 11, I only had an hour left of my shift, and so I figured I should actually get some work done instead of just sitting around and doing nothing. I'm 18, and so I work the shift alone, which is nice because it means I can do pretty much whatever I want. This is normally pretty great because I can do whatever I want so long as I get what I need to get done finished. I noticed we were almost out of BBQ chips, so I needed to go to our storage space, which for some reason is in the basement of the station. I've always hated going down there just because it gives me the creeps. Why the owner decided to store everything down there is beyond my comprehension. I got about halfway down the steps before something fell on the other side of the room, and it sounded like footsteps were coming my way. I sprinted up the stairs and locked the door to the basement, panicking like a madman the entire time. When I got back upstairs, I went behind the counter to the store computer so I could check the security cameras. I flicked over to the one that looks into the basement, and there was this guy just standing there, smiling up into the camera. He had a look of absolute insanity in his eyes, but he didn't look like the average junkie in the area. He was clean-shaven and dressed in what looked to be jeans and a button-up of some kind. Honestly, if he'd walked into the store, I wouldn't have batted an eye, but because he was down there, and because he was just looking into the camera, smiling, it shook me to my core. I called the store owner, and at first he was pretty mad I called him in the middle of the night. But once he heard how freaked out I was, his tone changed. He told me he'd be there in 15 minutes and just to lock the main door to the store and make sure the man didn't go anywhere. I asked if I should call the police, but for some reason he didn't want me to do that just yet. I locked the entrance to the gas station and went back to looking at the man. He was still there, just smiling up at me. About 3 or so minutes of him staring at me later, and he walked out of view of the camera. My boss showed up soon after, armed with a shotgun, and when I let him in, he immediately went to the basement. I went with him just because I felt safe with there being another person there and all, but we found nothing. My boss ultimately chalked this up to me being tired and hallucinating the man, but I know what I saw. This has me scared shitless as I clock back into work in a few hours, and I'm really dreading it. Sorry for rambling, but I just needed to get this off my chest as it scared me to my core.